What movie or series lit your fuse and made you have to tell stories on screen?
As a child, I remember going to the movies was a family outing, and I used to love it. And I think that from then, my love for the movies began. It wasn't just because it was one movie. It was the whole encompassing feeling that I'm there, parents, having a good time, sitting down in the darkened room, big room, and so many people around you, and everybody enjoying or laughing or crying. And that always stuck with me. I still remember seeing myself as this kid, perched on the edge of a chair going like, oh, wow. But not thinking that maybe one day I will be up there on the silver screen. Really just saying, I love this world because it's magical. And when I was a kid growing up in Malaysia, we are a Muslim country. So our films are very family orientated. So I think the ones that I really remember the most is like The Wizard of Oz or The Sound of Music. And plus coming from a background of being in love with ballet and dance, those movies resounded in me. Because it took me, I could be out dancing in the fields, running across the fields and going, the hills are alive. And it was just so liberating, but felt very, very much like home, like Malaysia, because we have hills and mountains and very nature-based. And then, of course, as I grew a little older and I went on to study in England, the movies that really stuck to me was one particular movie called The Champ. I still remember having this huge poster on my wall, and Faye Dunaway, John Voight, Ricky Schroeder when he was a little boy. And I think that was the first movie I remember sobbing my heart out. Just that emotion was so powerful. And it was still, I didn't understand how, but it resonated so deeply that watching something on the silver screen was so powerful to make you have such complicated feelings. And then, of course, during that time, it was the great influence of the Hong Kong films. We would go to Leicester Square and watch midnight screenings of The Drunken Master. I think that was the first movie of Jackie Chan and Master Yuen Woo-ping. So, and I still remember going, because we were in England and suddenly we were all speaking Chinese because it was a Hong Kong film. So, but it felt like, even though I'm so far away from home, I can be still so close. So I think the magic of cinema had always been so ingrained in me for different reasons. Not because I was thinking, oh, one day I want to do that, but the feeling of I'm having an amazing shared experience with people I don't know, but it didn't matter because at that precise moment, we were all laughing together. We were all clapping together, or we were like, oh, why is this happening? So that became a very powerful medium.
On your way up, what movie or series did you watch that was so good it made you question if you could ever rise to that level?
I think I want to say Out of Africa. I mean, that's Sophie's Choice. I don't see her acting the role. I see her living the role. I see her being, when she did Sophie's Choice, it's Sophie. When she was out of Africa, her silence, her stillness was more powerful than more words could say. There was such a luminescent quality about her. And yes, it is very intimidating. Every time I look at her, it's intimidating. It's like, how do you do it? How can I possibly one day be like that? And I think it's good. It's good to be inspired by someone and then think, see, there are goals to achieve. There are goals to get to. And one day, maybe I'll be halfway up that mountain.
Whether it was your own work or approval from someone who mattered to you, what first gave you the confidence that you belonged?
Okay, when I did my first action film, because it was very much at that moment in time in the early 80s in the Hong Kong world, it was very much male dominated and brilliantly dominated by them. The Shaw Brothers era was sort of like, the great swordswoman like Zhang Pei Pei and all that was sort of like more in the background. And it was the era of the Jackie Chan, Jet Li, Sammo Hung, and they were like, they just like took over the whole screens. And when I did my first action film, Yes, Madam, it was a risk for everyone. We didn't know if we would be welcome because they were so used to seeing the women being the women who are supposed to be rescued by the men and women who are more fragile doing the womanly thing. And suddenly, I am the detective. I'm running, I'm barreling down with guns and, kicking around. And I think that moment of when the audience at the end of the movie clapped, and oh my God, I think it worked. They didn't like, what do you think you're doing? I think that was very important because it gave us all, not just me, but my producers, my directors, the courage to say, oh, I think we've latched onto something new here. So that was a turning moment for me as a newcomer, as a new actress, that we had like forged forwards and tried something very bold.
What was the biggest obstacle you overcame that allowed you to turn the projects that influenced you into your own language?
I have no formal training in martial arts, but how I approach it is, it's like if you know your ABCs, you'll be able to string together your words. So I didn't choose to practice in one particular style because in every movie, as you know, you switch styles, depending whether it's a period piece or a contemporary. So you don't fight with one, and you don't fight in one form, and the moves are never the same. So you have to adapt. So when I train, because I've always been a dancer, starting with ballet and all that, I was also very athletic. I did squash, I swam, I run, I dive, I do a lot of physical activities, which also really helped with movement. So I understood what it is to move. And what I was also quite adept at was mimicking movements. I would watch the stunt boys. I would watch the one who was teaching me the moves. So when they say do side, front, back, I was able to do it, right? So all I had to do was practice precision, stamina, and that is respect to the person that you're fighting with. Because with dance, it's also about choreography and timing and learning how to dance with your partner. And with martial arts, with a choreographed stunt piece, that was what it was. It was not you just doing your crazy thing. It was you interacting with everyone and everybody finding the right rhythm to do it collective. So it's very collaborative in that way. I think my biggest advantage at that point was I was very flexible. So the stunt guys would look at me and go, okay, you can do that kick and you can do the back one and then you can do the sideways because, it was like, okay, it's painful even just to watch it.
How has the explosion in streaming changed the way you work?
I think, first of all, that's a really good question and it's so prevalent to what is happening to us. I mean, in the last 2 years, 3 years, 2 years exactly, right? And I remember I was actually filming or just wrapped on the day of the lockdown, Everything Everywhere All at Once 2 years ago. And we just had our world premiere at the South by Southwest Film Festival a couple of days ago. When things were opening up, we were hoping that they would open up continuously, but then there have been starts and stop and start again. And we all want to go back to some kind of normal, being normal again, being sharing and being with people. And we will get there. I have faith that we will get there. We just have to be mindful. We just have to protect ourselves and each other. But it is a journey that, because we make, honestly, when I was with the audience, we stayed to watch the movie for the first time in the theater with an audience. And it took me back to when I was a kid. It's magical. I think nothing can take away from that. We make the movies to be seen on the big screen, to be a shared experience. And I was very overwhelmed. And I have a couple of really great friends who said, okay, Alex Kurtzman, my darling showrunner, he came to the premiere and he said, this is the first time I'm watching a film in the cinema in 2 years since the pandemic. And I think it was very much so for many, many people. And we were all blown away, not, I hope, by our film, of course, but by the fact we were back in the cinemas. And that's why we make our movies, is to be in the cinemas, to be shared with you. It's great, I think, in the last couple of years where we have a lot more platforms, streaming and all that. I don't think it changes the way I work. I think the way we work is we will always do our best, whether it's because it shows on the big screen or on, for TV series. And today, the quality of TV series are so incredible that they can be shown on the big screen, which I just saw The Man Who Fell Back to Earth. It was supposed to be a TV series, but when we saw it on the giant screen, it was magnificent. So I think as creators, storytellers, the medium is not the most important. It's the opportunity to be able to tell you a good story.